mighty. Not because you want to, but you have to. Be bold and no time to be bashful. Grab life by the horns like a natural. Be sharp, be quick, and be agile. Never ever let a competitor catch you. Stay ahead of whatever is trying to pass you. Though it's not a race, sometimes that's how you gotta operate.
Hello, my name is Samuel Ray, also known to some as Dr. Sam, and this is S-Factor Labs. Welcome to the Morning Boot Up, my weekly solo discussion segment where I just sit down with my morning coffee and talk about a subject for a little bit. Just kind of put my thoughts out there. So, some recent events happened on the internet, and while I was not a direct, part of it, someone who was involved at all in any form or fashion, but it kind of inspired just me to talk about a certain concept that I think really applies to everyone, and then especially so if you're in the content creation or public figure kind of space. And that's quality of character. That encompasses many things, but I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. Because obviously, when it comes to personality traits and such, there's a lot of subjectivity in there. There's no one size fits all, because you can't force everyone to conform to being one type of person. After all, the variety within humanity is what makes us human. You know, the different unique traits and qualities. And that's how it should be. You know, otherwise we become carbon copies or clones or robots. However, there are certain traits that could use to be more widespread, a bit more universal, because they would objectively result in just better outcome. And particularly pertaining to being a public figure or a content creator or anyone that, entertains others and inevitably has some people that look up to him or anything of that sort. And then you get into an aspect of responsibility. And responsibility in the fact that you have a measure of duty, accountability for your words and actions. It just comes with the territory. Once you are in a position where people listen to you, you do have a measure of a moral responsibility. And obviously we're not talking about telling others what to do or trying to force your values upon others. That's not good. So keep that kind of stuff to a minimum if you can. Particularly regarding the divisive aspects, and I'm not going to touch base on those because that's not the place. This is not the place for it. And I purposely will keep it that way in my content. However, one of the things that really inspired this thought process in my head was a certain content creator working under a certain company whose actions and words for a set amount of time indicated a clear pattern of behavior. A level of density and consistency in actions that can only logically indicate certain traits and habits and just deep-seated, aspects that made them reflect poorly on the company that employed them. And with any sizable company, they have a public relations department who, if they do their job properly, their job is to keep the company from looking bad. Sometimes that can be in less than honest ways, half-truths or partial truth, public statements and so on that should be taken with a grain of salt. But one thing you can always trust a PR team to do is to tell the truth when it would benefit the company more than withholding. So when the statement lines up with that, more likely than not, it's a true statement. And when you have a laundry list of misdeeds and misconduct that an employee who is one of the faces of the company, represents the company, carries that company's name in the public eye, when they have a laundry list of things that reflect poorly on the company, and said company lists them out for the public to see, more likely than not, it's true. Because if they were to lie about it and then that were to come to light, that would ultimately have an even worse impact on the company. And a good PR team is not going to lie to try and make the talent look bad and the company look good if there's the risk of people finding out it, getting receipts that contradict and then turn that over. Now, that's not to say you should just always believe every single thing that a large corporation says, but when telling the truth would be more beneficial to the company than lying or withholding, that's most likely what they're going to do, just statistically and logically speaking. And that shows a lack of responsibility, because when you sign on a contract to work for a company in which your actions will directly reflect upon them, you then have a responsibility, a duty to uphold the terms of that contract. Not only a moral responsibility to do so, just because keeping your word, keeping your promises is morally right, universally, like there's no exceptions to that, but when you sign a contract, you're also legally required to keep to your word, as stated in the contract. And this specific person clearly failed to do that, was suspended, and then due to showing that they had no intention of changing and improving that, they were let go recently. And honestly, in such a case, that's how it should be. Not saying that I, wish any ill fate upon the person, but in such a situation, the person clearly didn't uphold their contract, which includes, when it comes to like entertainment, it includes your public facing words and actions, your behaviors. It matters. It always matters. That's another reason why it's wise to stay out of the divisive socio-political discussions, because inevitably that's going to alienate people or make people think you're on one side or another, or it's just going to start trouble. That's why I take the stance of I'm leaving that out of my content creation. What I do in my personal life is nobody's business but my own. Here in S-Factor Labs, none of that belongs here. Leave it at the door. Just be a good person towards each other. That's all that matters. And I feel like that in and of itself is sort of my responsibility. I want to make a space where people of all ages and all types can just come in and enjoy some good games with good people, is kind of the simple way of putting it. And therefore, I fully intend, and honestly, just through my life, I've already lived through I've lived a sizable chunk of my life, actually my whole life really, doing what I'm saying. Like they say, practice what you preach. I've been doing that for my entire life. Not to say I haven't made mistakes, nobody's perfect. But when it comes to my conscious decisions, I have already established some consistency in sticking to my guns and sticking to my principles. That's a core part of who I am, is this stubbornness, to speak candidly, stubbornness to do what I'm determined to do, regardless of what anyone else says. That is a big part of who I am. For better or worse, I can be very hard-headed in these kind of matters. More often than not, it's for better though, because it has made me, I've never been a weak-willed person. I've never been someone who easily folds or bends the knee or, tries to blend into the crowd for the sake of not sticking out as different or whatever, and let other people influence my actions or my standards. That's never been me. So, whether I'm independent or hired by a company, these aspects of myself are not going to change. Fortunately, it makes me already brand safe. So right now, it doesn't matter as much while I'm a smaller content creator, because my brand hasn't grown enough to be noticed by like sponsors and whatnot. But if I do get to that point, or I get hired by a company, they can already be assured that I'm not going to bring bad PR to them through any direct action of my own. Now, I can't predict what the, internet socio-political activist types who even try to label inaction as an action, those type of people who take the "if you're not with us, you're against us" ultimatum and place it onto others. I can't predict what those people do, because unfortunately people are highly unreasonable. But regardless of any of that stuff that may or may not happen in the future, I'm not going to change who I am as a person. And I'm a person who was raised to treat responsibility seriously. And so I put being a decent person above personal gain. But and there was other things that happened recently too that made me think about this topic, because like there was a situation where a person, over something relatively small in the grand scheme of things, just kind of blew up, and then their true colors came out, that they hate everyone of a certain type, certain biological type. And this just behavior that's not becoming of someone who's supposed to be a public figure, right? And it was a course of action that resulted in more hate than anything positive. It's one thing to poke a hole in some logical fallacy, and another thing to actually spew hate towards an entire group of people, an entire demographic, or whatever, however you want to put it. You have, as a public figure, a responsibility to not do such things. It's one thing to have your target audience. It's another to spew hate towards people who aren't your target audience, or in some cases, people who are your target audience, which is such a backwards and illogical course of action. It baffles. But when you're making yourself a public figure by being a content creator, whether that be YouTube, streaming, I don't know, TikTok or Instagram or what have you, if at any point you gain a following, you then have an obligation to that audience, that following, to not be a bad person. That's the simplest way to put it. You have an obligation to set a good example for them, to give them some positive traits to strive towards, and as an all ages content creator myself, I need to stick to that, because my audience is going to be of broader age ranges, and if I do grow, it'll remain that way, which means a wider swath of people of all age ranges. And since that does include younger viewers, while I don't gear my content towards younger viewers, I don't target them specifically, I don't push them away like many other content creators do. I don't label my stuff 18 plus because I don't do anything or say anything that necessarily necessitates that label. So I do have to accept the fact that if I'm going to have some younger viewers, now I also know the majority of my viewers are older than 18. In fact, the majority of them are 25 through 44. So, decently mature adults and up to middle-aged, which is, I'm kind of smack dab in the middle of that age bracket, actually. So it's fitting, it's my age bracket. But there are some younger viewers, and so I am taking that responsibility seriously. So I'm going to not portray, but I'm just going to let my more mature traits take the lead, I'm not going to act impulsively, immaturely, or juvenile to cater to a younger audience, but also to set a good example. I intend to be a good role model for those younger viewers to bring out their maturity, and also just to help them learn some things that could help them become mature adults themselves. Fortunately, the way I was raised, I don't have to change much about myself to do so. I just need to make sure that I'm myself and that I let my values, my standards hold true instead of letting them slip for the fame, so to speak, or for the bag. I need to stick to my guns. That's all I need to do. I don't need to change anything about myself. I need to stay stubborn and prevent any kind of growth in my content from changing me. And that's a fight I do not intend to lose. Like I said, I'm stubborn. I am hard-headed in this matter, but I've lived it, throughout my whole life. I've been around all sorts of people who don't share my values or my standards or principles, and I haven't let those change me. I've remained who I am, even if it means I never had any one circle to feel like I truly belonged in, to be in the middle of. I was always kind of an outside observer of multiple circles because I could get along with people of all sorts of types, but I didn't fully identify with any of them because there was always something about me that was different from each circle that I ever interacted with. There's always something that made me notably different. But that's fine. I grew up being okay with that because that was my family's culture. It was individualism in the sense of being the best individual you can be despite the environment and people around you, because both my parents came from bad areas growing up. They came from rough backgrounds, and they refused to be another statistic and to just give in to the influences of their environments. They were determined to seize a better life for themselves. And they did, through blood, sweat, and tears, hard work. They made it. That's how they even met. If either of them had given up on that, that principle of positive individualism, they wouldn't have been in the same place at the same time and met, and I wouldn't exist. So I owe my life to that culture of positive individualism, with a mind towards self-improvement as an individual. That's the reason I even exist. So I take that very much to heart, and that drives how I live my life. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be responsible. I'm also going to do my darndest to be morally upright and set a good example for others. Also, so that I can live with a clean conscience. And I'm going to tackle the responsibilities that life throws at me, whether that be working at a job where I have to, have a strong work ethic and, put forth good customer service and, do my job well, learn my job well, do my job well, adapt to ever-changing work environment circumstances or workflow or anything of the sort, and also don't do anything that reflects poorly upon my employer. I'm going to uphold that responsibility. If I grow as a content creator, I'm going to uphold the responsibility of being a public figure and what some would call an influencer, right? To have a positive influence. And I don't mean that in the activist way. I mean that on the individual level. There's a saying, I don't remember if it's a saying, but essentially the thought goes that if you have had a positive impact on one person, just one person in a line of work or a profession or a hobby or whatever activity, then that time was valuable. And, you know, in content creation and as a public figure, that gives you the opportunity to touch many lives. So do everything you can to uphold the responsibility for that influence you have to be a positive one, to make people either be able to forget their problems for a little bit while they interact with your content or your streams, or interact with you in your streams, or, you know, help them to learn some good lessons, right? That can help them grow as people, or help them to think about something in a different way that facilitates their ability to grow from it and improve from it, or tackle something in a positive and upbuilding way. And by positive, I don't mean like cheery, smile in your face, roses and flowers. I mean in a way that has a positive outcome. You know, because I am a realist. I'm a man of logic. And I became that because of necessity through my life experiences. I'm not going to go into detail about those experiences, but as a child, I was actually a very emotional child. I mean, who wasn't as a child? But even as like a preteen, I was still very emotionally inclined. And I do feel emotions strongly. However, I learned how to counteract that with my brain, with my mind, to override that emotion when needed and focus on doing what I determine is right for that situation, using knowledge, logic, and applying those, which is what is wisdom, and doing what will have the best possible outcome, not just for me, but for others as well. So you not being self-centered, you know? And sometimes doing what's right will benefit others, but won't benefit yourself. And that's one of the qualifiers of a good person. You know, a good person is when doing the right thing isn't what you desire or what you want or what your impulses are. If you're going to do the right thing, even if it's not what you want, or even if it's not going to benefit you personally, but will benefit others. Selflessness is tied into that. So, you know, like with the example from earlier of the entertainer hired by a company, maybe this person wanted to do or say certain things because that's just, they feel that's who they were, or that's just what came to their mind impulsively, right? And they just said stuff without brain-mouth filter. Well, in that kind of situation, sometimes you do have to pause and think, should I say this? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And acting on the selfish want, saying, I'm going to do this because I can, that's an immature mindset and a bad stance in general. It's not a good personality trait, you know, not a good quality to have. To selfishly do something just because you can, and refusing to think any other way about it because that's just who I am. Not a good mindset to have. I don't care. You know, it's not. If doing what you want contradicts what's actually right, or if doing what you want would hurt someone else, then the right thing is not to do it, or say it, or whatever. A good person does what's right even if it's not what they want to do. That's having true responsibility. You know, like, there are times I don't want to go to work, but you know what? I have to do it because I got to pay the bills, right? There are days where I don't want to go to work. I'd rather stream or make some, you know, put into some YouTube content, set up some collabs maybe, but I can't because I have bills to pay, and there may be a change in my life coming soon, in which case I'll have responsibility for people other than myself. And I mean, I always have people other than myself. Let's be honest. I don't want to slack on my bills and then put burden on family to help me, you know? So even if you're a single person, your actions still impact someone else. Our actions always impact others. being selfish is never the viable way to do things, because no one person is an island. Our actions always have an effect on someone else. I have family who I have a good relationship with, my brother, my parents, and some extended family. So if I were to do something stupid and it had a negative outcome in my life, like say I just not working well, or not doing my job, or just not forsaking, neglecting that aspect of my life, and then becoming unable to pay my bills because of my own irresponsibility, that would have a negative impact on family, who then would feel like they want to help me financially until I can get back on my feet. I don't want to put that burden on anyone else. So I'm going to be responsible and pay my bills first before I put the things, any important on the things I want to do. So when I don't want to go to work, I still do it, because I know that the implications of not doing so go beyond just me. And I think that's the core of it. When you're able to think beyond yourself, that's when you become truly mature and responsible. When you can think beyond yourself and act, I should say, when you can think beyond yourself and act on that in the interest of not just yourself, but others, as much or more than yourself. That is true responsibility, and that is a true universal virtue. So if you represent a company, think beyond yourself. Think, how does this action affect my appearance, and how will that affect the company that is paying me? That's allowing me to pay my bills. Or how does that influence my coworkers? Because in this case, like say, for example, with VTuber agencies, right? While I don't necessarily act like your usual VTuber in many ways, I still technically am one, because I use an avatar instead of a webcam or disembodied voice. I just don't slot into the culture that much, because I'm just going to be me, and that's how it'll stay. But that aside, with a VTuber agency, the entertainers in that company not only influence or impact the company that they're hired by, they also impact their fellow entertainers in the company, or in the same wave or generation or whatever you want to call it. They don't just reflect poorly on the company that hires them, they reflect poorly on their peers in that company as well, because of the association. And a responsible person would think beyond themselves and think, how is this going to impact them as well? Because honestly, in such an entertainment group, you want to have a good working relationship at the very least with your coworkers, right? And if you're doing things that bring bad look upon them, then you give them the inconvenience of having to make a statement about whether or not they associate with you, or whether or not they support what you're doing that's bringing bad press. It trickles down to all sorts of different areas. You have a responsibility to look beyond yourself and see how your actions and words impact others, everyone around you, your viewers, your coworkers and peers who associate with you, on a professional level, your employer, friends, family. It's never, no person's an island. It's never just you. So when you take an action, don't say, is this what I want to do? Yes? Okay, I'm going to do it. Stop there. Not a good way to approach anything in life. And we always have restrictions. People are going to cry censorship or whatever. We always have restrictions in some area of our life. When I'm at my job, I can't go around spewing obscenities around our customers, because that's going to look poorly upon my place of work, my employer. Now, granted, I'm someone who naturally doesn't even use those in my day-to-day speech because of how I was raised, and I just stuck with that. It just became part of who I am. But the example still stands, and then there's always rules to follow. For example, at my job, I'm not allowed to carry anything that could be misconstrued as a weapon. I'm not allowed to have a pocket utility knife at my job. Even though I'm not the type who would really use it as a weapon, it would be for utility, opening boxes and stuff, you know? But I'm not allowed to do so, so I don't. You know, I don't say, well, I have the right to take it anyway. No, I'm working for that company. I have a responsibility to follow that company's rules. I'm not going to take my pocket knife there. Simple as that. You know, not allowed to drink alcohol on the job. Let's be honest, even though I do make all ages content, I don't, like I said, I don't cater to a juvenile audience, right? I try to they kind of come up to our level, which they are capable of often in the right environments. I've seen it happen, but I don't hide the fact that I drink alcohol sometimes, but I do it in moderation, which is the responsible thing to do. But you can't drink on the job. Pretty cut and dry. I don't bring alcohol or try to sneak anything or anything of that sort, because that would be irresponsible. You know, there's no law in well, in that case, I think it is. I don't know if there's actually a law against drinking alcohol at work, because some jobs, they can give you like the small amounts of alcohol sometimes. Like I worked at a place where during certain types of events, we were allowed to have tiny bits of alcohol, but not much. So I don't think it's a law thing, it's just a rules thing. So, you know, the law doesn't forbid you from doing something, but you know what? If the place you're working at has certain rules, you follow those rules, right? Security rules, right? After closing time, door opens for no one. That means no one. The only person who can make exceptions is the person in charge, right? You don't break that rule just because you like the person who's trying to get you to break the rule. I don't break that rule for anyone. Doors locked, I'm not opening that for anyone. I'm getting the person in charge and letting them make the decision. Simple as that. Doesn't matter if we're on good terms or not, I'm not breaking the rules for you. Simple as that. Because those rules are in place for the safety of everyone still in that building, customers and employees. Simple as that. You have a responsibility to uphold that rule. And you agree to those rules as soon as you start working for that company. Responsibility and rules, they go hand in hand. And rules are not an inherently bad thing. People try to act like being told what to do is just such an evil thing and such an oppression, and no. Rules and structure are part of life. Becoming an adult is when you figure out how to follow rules while still maintaining your individuality. Choosing to follow the rules doesn't make you less of an individual. It makes you a more mature individual. Especially when following the rules benefits people other than yourself. It's really as simple as that. You know, and that's one area of morality that is just universal. There are no exceptions. You know, and I don't care if you disagree with that. That's yours. You have your right to your opinion, but not all opinions are correct. In this case, rules are not an evil thing. It's not taking away necessary human freedoms. It's not taking away your ability to eat or have a roof over your head or, you know, anything like that. You know, provide for your family. It's not taking that away to follow the rules. If anything, following rules facilitates you being able to do that by allowing you to keep your job. It's just baffling how much people seem to try and fight against rules and regulations when said rules and regulations don't harm the people under those. You know, it's really insane to me how the society's kind of created a climate where when someone breaks the rules or a contract or whatever and acts in ways that are just objectively not good, or that reflect poorly upon their employer, or heck, it can be harmful in some cases, harmful to some people based on their position in life or their experiences or whatever. And then people want to defend this individual, right? Like, how can you defend this laundry list of misdeeds, misconduct? And I mean objective misconduct. I don't mean like, you know, this person did something that disagrees with this aspect of my, you know, socio-political leanings or whatever. I mean, this person lied to their employer. This person gave false information or documents to this employer. This person made jokes about a heinous act, you know, when they have a large audience that statistically can include people who were victimized by said heinous act. Or, you know, this person spoke maliciously of their coworkers, or supported people who spoke maliciously of their coworkers, or spoke maliciously of their employer, or I don't know, attacked another person for trying to be helpful, you know, and then, or attacked an entire group of people because of a shared common traits that are influenced by genetic commonalities, or you know, that are not in their control. It's just how they were born, right? Or and then perpetuated hate against said group of people in multiple times in the past. And it's, you know, it's just this it's crazy. Like, none of this stuff is like subjective. None of this stuff is stuff that could be subjectively right. It's all bad stuff. It's all stuff you shouldn't do in the positions that, you know, said individuals were in. But they did it. They shouldn't have defenders. There should be consequences for your action. That's the thing about responsibility, is that consequences are also a part of it. There are consequences for irresponsibility, and that's how it should be. Having negative consequences for your actions is not oppression. It's life. It's a part of responsibility. If there was no downsides to being irresponsible, then a lot of people would feel no reason to be responsible, right? Since we know in this day and age, morality is not a motivating factor for a lot of people anymore, because morality has become seen as such a subjective thing of my morals and your morals, even though it's just morals, like universal morals. But I'm not going to go deep into that. But since morality isn't as much of a motivator for people, there has to be something to motivate them to be responsible, right? And consequences is one of the things. Now here's the thing, consequences isn't inherently negative. There can be positive consequences for your actions too, and there should be positive consequences for responsibility, just as much as there should be negative consequences for irresponsibility. Okay, balanced, as all things should be, right? So, you know, we should reward those who are responsible. You know, support. When it comes to content creators, support the ones who are responsible and who do their best to be good people, right? Who are genuinely trying to be good people, not just for what they can gain out of it, but because it's the right thing to do. Reward those people by supporting them more than the irresponsible people. You know, don't reward irresponsibility, reward responsibility. And by support, I don't mean give them money. It's not always about money. Sometimes just supporting their endeavors. You know, and content creators, giving them some views, giving them a little bit of your time to watch their videos, or even if it's a video you don't necessarily enjoy, but you do want to support the content creator, pop into the video and give it a like, or pop in the video and leave an encouraging comment. Even if you don't watch the whole video, those still help them, you know? Stuff like that. You know, just support the people who are good people, who are responsible people. Simple as that. And if, like, you see a good or responsible person being attacked for the traits that make them good or responsible, defend them a little bit, you know, or encourage them on the side. You know, you don't necessarily have to defend against the person doing the attacking, but support the person who like, these people are trying, these backwards, you know, these backwards thinking people, which is increasingly common nowadays. You don't have to directly fight against them, but, like, encourage the person who's being attacked for no good reason, you know? Say, hey, don't worry about that person. You're fine with what you're doing. Keep it up. Literally, that in and of itself can be enough to counteract negativity that is undeserved. I know I've had some people who disagree with my opinions on the internet, particularly on Twitter, because let's be honest, Twitter is pretty backwards a lot of times, or at least a lot of people on Twitter are backwards because the platform itself encourages controversy, uses a limited character limitation for your tweets, so it's really difficult to get into nuance in discussions or to fully convey your thoughts in a single tweet in a way that in ways that won't be misunderstood. So it encourages controversy, it facilitates misunderstanding, in some cases kind of forces misunderstanding. It rewards people for being divisive, because those are the tweets that get the most engagement. Yeah, it's just or not divisive, but inflammatory at least. So Twitter's not a great platform for discussion in general, let's just be honest. It's great for advertising, it's good for networking a little bit, but it's not great for having actual decent discussion with any kind of depth or nuance. But when you have people disagreeing with you or attacking you for your stance or opinion on something, I've had that happen, but then I focus on those few people who are like either very civil in their disagreement and willing to have an amicable discussion, or the people who are encouraging, like, hey, yo, you did nothing wrong or said nothing wrong, that person's being unreasonable, ignore them, you're fine, you said nothing wrong, I agree with what you said, or anything along those lines. I focus on those people. I'm like, yo, I don't care if 100 people disagree with what I say. If 1 or 2 people are encouraged by what I said or positively impacted by what I said, then what I said was worth it. That's the mindset I take. I make the content I do, right? I've had people trying to tell me that making family friendly or all ages content is suspicious because anyone who makes content that doesn't actively push minors away is a predator automatically. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not even I'm not even targeting my content towards children. I'm playing the games I want to play because I want to play them, and I'm just sharing my love of the games I enjoy with other people while trying to be upbuilding and also provide new perspectives on different discussion topics, and but keeping it clean enough that people of all ages can enjoy, old and young, both. Family friendly, fun for the whole family, right? The children and the parents, not just the children. I'm not making children's content, I'm making all ages content, stuff that has something for everyone, or at least for people young and old, all age ranges. And so then I've had some people trying to say, anyone who makes kid-friendly entertainment is suspicious, or I'm wary of anyone who makes content that doesn't actively push away children and it doesn't have a lot of profanity or innuendo or suggestive behavior content, obscenities, and you're not genuine, you're not real, you're being fake, you're being suspicious, you're being a potential predator. And I'm just like, then I had other people who are like, yo, you're doing a good thing here, I appreciate you for being a clean content creator, keep up the good work, I hope you grow more, or saying I enjoy your content, or people were like, I love your streams. Or I've even had like a younger viewer who's like, your stream is one of my favorite streams of all Twitch streamers I watch. That means so much to get that one person that's like, you're one of my favorite streamers. Or another who's like, yo, I miss your streams when I couldn't stream for several weeks, a few weeks. It's like, I miss your streams, I hope you can stream again soon. That means a lot. That one message that I got that said, I miss your streams, I hope you can stream again soon, motivated me one week when I had the opportunity to stream, but I didn't exactly have much motivation. That one message motivated me to stream. And then that person, after that one stream, told me, hey, great stream today. I'm glad I got to make it to one more stream because I'm going to be going away for a while and won't be able to watch. That has so much impact and it's so encouraging and motivating, you know, that it doesn't matter if like 100 more people than that disagree or try to label me as suspicious or whatever, because I don't actively gatekeep, you know, minors out of my content and my streams. Even though I'm not catering or pandering directly to minors, I just don't push them away because there's nothing in my content that necessitates it. But that beside, you know, back to the point, encourage the people who are being responsible, right? Encourage the people that you want to support who are trying to be good people, or who are just genuinely, you know, being good people, or trying to lean into their traits that are genuinely good, or are trying to do something that has a positive impact on people, or are trying to be inclusive of people, right? Because I don't exclude anyone from my content or my community other than people who are actively crappy towards others, right? Literally, my main rule is be a decent person towards each other. You know, treat each other well. And then obviously don't do anything illegal or potentially harmful or suspicious towards others. And, you know, don't be bringing the socio-political divisiveness into my community. I'm not gonna have it. Keep things chill, you know? Keep things chill. I don't see anything wrong with that. I honestly, I am trying to make my community, my content of a more positive nature, or at least positive impacting nature, because obviously I'm not going to be all bubbly, you know, flowers and rainbows about everything. When I'm talking serious about something, I'm going to talk seriously about it. I'm going to be direct and straightforward, and some of it's negative, you know, but it's with an angle, an aim to having a positive impact, of taking something from it that can, you know, when you apply it, can have a positive impact on your life. I'm trying to carry my content creation with responsibility. And it's just, I find it crazy how people with so much more success can be so irresponsible with their position and with their behavior. And it's baffling. So it inspired me to talk about it in this little ramble. I hope you enjoyed something you heard here, you know, maybe it made you think a little bit. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Share your thoughts with me in the comments, or in a review, or on Twitter with hashtag counterpick, one word, _pod. Counterpick_pod is the hashtag. And then you can @ me at the letter s_factor_sam. s_factor_sam. Give me some feedback on what I said. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Keep it civil. Keep it clean, okay? I have filters in place that block out, you know, really aggressively, like, obscene type comments, or a lot, you know, heavy profanities and whatnot, just because again, since I'm someone who doesn't use that in my daily life, I'm just going to keep it out of my content and my spaces as much as I can, just to keep things on brand and to keep things in, you know, true to me. That's literally it. And then in the process, it'll also keep my content all ages, keep the audience broad. So keep it clean, and I would love to engage in discussion with you. I got a couple comments the other day actually, and they're not going to appear because the person was quite aggressive and using a lot of profanity in it. I took the critiques from it though, and I'm going to see about applying it to my content to make, you know, taking what I can learn from it and using it to improve my content, without directly addressing it or arguing, or even just, you know, it was automatically caught by the filters, and I'm just going to leave it there to kind of disappear in time. So that's fine. But you know what? I learned something from it. Got to take something from everything, right? Even the people who are a little more malicious. Anyway, that's it for me. So I'll see you next week on the Morning Boot Up, and then this month I'll be releasing a main feature podcast with Cy Prime. I'm going to see if I can get a guest speaker on for this topic. So if you have anyone in mind who is in the PG or PG-13, you know, kind of cleaner range of things, feel free to give me some suggestions. And then like or dislike the video on YouTube if you agree or disagree. You know, every bit of support and engagement helps. All right, I'm going to go on with the rest of my day. This is Samuel Ray, signing out. Have a good one.